Curtis and Portia enjoy the afterglow of making love in bed, and are determined to make their marriage work. Two officials from the New York State Office of Fraud visit Stella at the hospital and ask questions. Jordan, Felicia, and Isaiah rush to her aid, but Stella insists on answering their questions, so they proceed to a private room. Is Stella going to jail? Back at Curtis and Portia's, the doctor's phone rings, and Portia is surprised to see it's Jordan. She is extremely annoyed when Jordan says that Curtis' phone is turned off, and that this is an emergency. She tells Curtis about Stella's condition, and he promises to get there immediately away. Portia and Curtis return to the hospital, and the co-chief of staff promises to investigate. Can Brooke Lynn forgive Lois? Brooke Lynn informs Flora that she will not be the on-air representative today because to Lucy's previous ambush. Flora chatted with Lois, and she believes that they are both hurting. Brooke Lynn believes her mother should have told her everything when she initially began thinking about locating her child, and she might have saved Gio so much misery. Furthermore, she could have been able to establish a relationship with him. Flora informs Brooke Lynn that she has no way of knowing how things with Gio would have turned out, and she needs to choose whether there is enough love to re-establish her relationship with her mother. A producer then contacts Flora to go over the pre-show rundown. Brooke Lynn praises her for the conversation. Flora and BLQ discuss Lois Jeet. Will Maxie turn Sunny up to the cops? Maxie speaks with Martin and wants to know if she goes against her partner's preferences on a legal topic, they will force her out of deception. He claims they can't compel her to leave, but her personal and professional relationships with them may not last. Is Jens just playing games with Lucy? Following a special meal at Windmere, Lucy and Jens venture to one of Port Charles's most perilous areas, the parapet. She hopes she could stay, but she needs to work in the home and heart studio on a new product launch. He vows to tune in since he cannot get enough of her, because a home shopping show on cosmetics sounds like something Jens would watch. Marco arrives and witnesses Sidwell give Lucy a tiny kiss for luck. She flees and Sidwell adds that Lucy will be on TV tonight, and he's looking forward to seeing it. Marco worries how close his father and Lucy have grown. Maxie's deception back at home and heart. Maxie informs Martin that she wants him to set up a meeting with the DA for her, but her colleagues are unaware. He cautions against it. Lucy and Brooke Lynn appear, Martin departs, and the women are curious as to what she was discussing with Martin. Before Maxie can say anything, a woman approaches Lucy to prepare her for TV. Brooke Lynn chats with Maxie and apologizes for dropping out of the hosting gig. Maxie understands and Brooke Lynn thinks she is the best, so they embrace. Maxie is definitely concerned, and she hopes that her friend will always feel this way about her. Flora soon welcomes Lucy and Maxie on air to present their new product, the Youth Truth line based on their patented serum. Maxie was given a specific product to use on camera before they appeared on the show. It's not mysterious at all. Martin to Stella's rescue? Maybe not. Martin returns to the hospital after being summoned by Felicia, interrupting Stella's meeting. He presents himself as her attorney. The feds say he can't represent Mrs. Henry because he's a person of interest in their inquiry, and they have questions for him as well. Turner gets an earful at Sunny's. Turner listens from across the corner as Drew informs Sunny that unless he does what he wants, Michael will be imprisoned for hitting him tonight, which means Willow will reclaim her children. Drew urges him to persuade Michael to grant Willow visiting rights, sell his peers to Jens and leave town. Sunny claims Michael will not allow Willow to see the children. Their well-being is more important to him than his own. Drew said Michael lost control tonight, demonstrating how violent he can be, and all he had to do was talk to Wiley for a second. Sunny erupts in wrath, yelling, "You used my grandson to get to my son?" Sunny claims this won't win Willow back because she knows what a loser he is. Drew asks if he will do what he wants or let Michael go to prison. Sunny refuses to accept and sends Drew away. Turner arrives from concealment, horrified that Congressman Kane had just tried to extort Sunny. He informs her that she not only had a fantastic supper tonight, but she also got to know the real Drew Kane. Sunny immediately convinces her that she can't do anything with what she knows, because Drew will accuse her of corruption and bribery. She tells him that he cannot retaliate either. Sidwell is tired of Congressman Cutthroat. At Windermere, Jens tells his son that he thinks Lucy is a great and kind person. Suddenly, Drew bursts in to proclaim his apparent victory over Sunny. Drew tells him everything that happened tonight with Michael and Sunny, but Sidwell doesn't see how sending Michael to prison can benefit them. Drew claims that Michael going to jail will bring Willow her children back. Sidwell claims that removing Michael removes Sunny's motive to collaborate with them, and he will simply retaliate, which is risky. Britt and Jason exchange glances across the globe, where it is also nighttime at the Five Poppies. Britt runs to Pascal and pulls him away. She declares loudly that she will remain in her room until the lab's air conditioning is repaired, as she is unable to use the computer in such heat. She goes away, and Pascal returns to Jason. In their room, Joss recalls shooting Cyrus shortly after firing at the assassin strangling Vaughn. Vaughn tries to talk to the assassin and find out who sent him. He can't speak since he was punched in the throat and is bleeding out. Vaughn searches him, then suffocates him with a pillow. Vaughn claims their cover has been compromised, and they must leave. Joss suggests that they can preserve the mission if she can convince Britt to talk to her about Dalton and his cold fusion experiment. Vaughn believes they can probably buy themselves 24 hours, and they must eliminate the assassin by dumping him off the neighboring cliffs. After discarding the body, Vaughn proposes that Joss, who has blood on her hands, get cleaned up while he updates Brennan. Meanwhile, Pascal takes Jason to the bar for drinks and live music, while Britt goes to her room startled. In the show's final moments, Stella and Martin leave the interview, and she is surprised to see Curtis and Portia. Martin wonders if Stella has ever faced this kind of scrutiny before. She's never done it before and has no idea why now, but it's apparent Martin suspects, and Drew has made himself another enemy. Portia lashes out at the two feds, demanding to know on what basis they are questioning her staff, as the hospital is unaware of any insurance claims inquiry. When they indicate they report to someone higher up, Curtis becomes skeptical. Turner has an empathetic shift toward him at Sunny's, observing that he's portrayed as a menace in the newspaper, yet Drew was the one who threatened him tonight. She believes Kane is likely to be the type of politician who abuses all kinds of laws, and she tells Sunny that she will find a way to bring him down. Sunny is grateful to Justine. Drew admits at Windmere that he will have to find another method to deal with Sunny, but he swears to be the one to reconnect Willow with her children. He leaves, and Marco tells his father that Kane no longer appears to be of much service to them. Sidwell fears he will soon become a liability. Hopefully, someone will try to take Drew's life soon. On television, Maxie has to keep Lucy from talking about the nurse's ball and her beautiful life while relating their products to the average woman. She begins applying their new night mask to her face to demonstrate how it works. That's when she looks to get dizzy and passes out. Is this what Sidwell was looking for? Vaughn knocks on the bathroom door at the Five Poppies, while Joss sits completely clothed in the bathtub, reliving the shooting of the assassin and Cyrus. He enters the stall, sits next to her, kisses her hand and wraps his arms around her. Britt is finally lying in bed when her door opens. She gets up and Jason stands there. The day began like any other in Port Charles, with the usual mix of secrets, betrayals and high-stakes conflict. Drew Kane, now a congressman with a grudge on his shoulder the size of the Quartermain estate, was in Sonny Corinthos' penthouse, outlining a plot so outrageous that even the most seasoned crime leader raised an eyebrow. Drew's voice was firm, and his eyes glowed with a mix of desperation and resolve as he delivered his ultimatum. He claimed to have proof that Sonny's son, Michael, had assaulted him, an accusation that held the possibility of imprisonment. Drew's demands were clear. Michael must petition the court to grant Willow Tate generous visitation rights with her children, Wiley and Amelia. Sonny must sell his peers to Jen Sidwell, a shadowy figure whose influence in Port Charles was growing by the day. And most shockingly, Sonny must leave town for an extended vacation. The audacity of it all hung in the air like a storm cloud, and Sonny, never one to back down, bristled at the threat. Sonny's response was pure fury. He accused Drew of using his grandson Wiley as a pawn to control Michael, a despicable blow that stung deeply. "You used my grandson to contact my son?" Sonny shouted, his voice ringing throughout the penthouse. Drew attempted to divert, but Sonny was not having it. He exposed Drew for what he was, a man attempting to play hero to Willow while plunging to new levels of villainy. "She knows what a loser you are," Sonny said, his words tinged with hate. Drew, undeterred, stood firm, warning Sonny that if he didn't obey, Michael's destiny would be on his head. Drew stormed out, leaving Sunny furious and the situation unresolved. Drew was unaware that his brave gesture had an unintended witness, Justine Turner, who had been silently listening from across the corner. Justine, a lady of principle caught up in Port Charles's moral ambiguity, was taken aback by what she had heard. Drew, the polished congressman, was attempting to extort Sonny Corinthos, a man seen as a threat by the press but who in this moment appeared to be the victim. Justine emerged from her hiding place, her thoughts racing. She saw an opportunity to pull Drew down to reveal the real Drew Kane, as Sonny had described him. But Sonny, ever the strategist, warned her against acting rashly. If she went public, Drew would distort the story, portraying her as corrupt and alleging she was bribed. Justine's hands were tied, but she left the penthouse determined to find another way to bring justice, her resolve strengthened by the encounter. Drew was venting to Jen Sidwell across town at Windermere, a vast house that seemed to attract trouble like a magnet. The two men stood on the turret, the wind howling around them while Drew detailed his failed attempt to subdue Sonny. "I'll find another way to deal with him," Drew mumbled, his jaw tightening. Sidwell, a guy whose calm appearance concealed a cruel tendency, listened with a little smirk. His son Marco, who stood close, was less enthused. "Kane's becoming a liability," Marco told his father after Drew had left. Sidwell nodded, his gaze tightening. "Someone needs to take care of him," he said, the inference obvious. Drew's list of adversaries grew, and even his purported pals began to regard him as more trouble than he was worth. Meanwhile, the emphasis switched to Maxie Jones, whose day had taken unexpected turns. Maxie, the dynamic force behind deception, was on the set of Home and Heart, a shopping channel known for its gloss and glamour. She and Lucy Coe were there to unveil their new Youth Truth product line, which revolves around their unique serum. The cameras were rolling, and host Flora was grinning as Maxie explained how to use their new night mask. "It's all about connecting with the everyday woman," Maxie added, dabbing the cream on her face with a confident tone. Lucy, ever the chatterbox, talked about the nurse's ball and her luxurious life, while Maxie remained focused on the product, her professionalism showing through. Maxie then stumbled as if time had frozen. Her fingers trembled, her speech slurred, and before anybody could respond, she dropped to the floor, the jar of night mask clinking next to her. Flora gasped, Lucy shrieked, and the staff rushed to help. Fans watching at home were stunned when their TVs displayed the image of Maxie laying still. Whispers of suspicion began to circulate. Has the cream been tampered with? Was this an accident, or something far more sinister? The timing was too perfect and the circumstances were too unusual. Maxie had been given that exact jar of cream immediately before the concert, which raised red flags for people familiar with her history of danger. Back in the hospital, Maxie's breakdown had an immediate impact. Felicia, Maxie's mother, raced to her side, her face pale with concern. Martin Gray, summoned as her attorney, arrived just as federal agents were circling Stella Henry, a beloved figure embroiled in a fraud investigation linked to Drew's actions. The feds, stone-faced and inflexible, told Martin he couldn't represent Stella because he was a person of interest himself. Drew's plots were tightening, ensnaring even those on the outskirts. Curtis Ashford, Stella's nephew, wanted answers, his aggravation growing as he understood Drew's influence was causing the examination of his aunt. "This is coming from higher up," one of the investigators added cryptically, leaving Curtis wondering how far Drew's influence reached. The anxiety within Deception's headquarters was palpable. Maxie's fall had sent shockwaves throughout the corporation, and the women Lucy, Brooklyn Quartermain and Tracy Quartermain were dealing with their own dilemma. Maxie had expressed her wish to come clean about Sonny's filthy money, which had unintentionally sponsored Deception. But Tracy, ever the pragmatist, had dismissed the proposal, claiming that going to the police would result in an audit and potentially incriminate them all. The vote had been unanimous, with Maxie the only dissenter. Now that Maxie was in the hospital, the others couldn't help but wonder if her fall was due to her refusal to remain silent. Jen Sidwell, who had a vested interest in keeping Deception's secrets hidden, had been strangely interested in watching the Home and Heart part. Had he planned this to quiet Maxie? As the day progressed, Port Charles was alive with speculation. At the Quartermain estate, Jason Morgan was dealing with his own drama, defending his son Danny from Drew's wrath. Drew had ordered Danny's arrest for a small infringement, indicating an obvious intent to harm Jason via his child. Alexis Davis, the ever-present voice of reason, attempted to de-escalate the situation, but Drew's fixation with control was spinning. He vowed that Scout, his daughter, would have no contact with her family, bringing Alexis closer to breaking point. Whispers of Alexis' darker path began to circulate. Could Drew's actions drive her to extreme measures? Willow Tate was in the hospital, dealing with her own regrets. She had succumbed to Drew's charm, dismissing warnings from others around her, especially Portia Robinson, who had discovered serious irregularities in Drew's medical history. Willow's faith in Drew was fading, but her meeting with Isaiah, a new confidant, provided her a ray of hope. "You'll have your kids back soon," Isaiah reassured her. But Willow's remorse over her previous actions weighed heavily. Chase, her ex-husband, was proving to be a staunch ally, in sharp contrast to Drew's manipulating techniques. The lines were being drawn, and Drew's opponents were banding together against him. Meanwhile, Sidwell was playing a deadly game. His advantage against Sonny, knowledge of a bribe judge in Willow's child custody case, was a ticking time bomb. Marco begged his father to use it right now, before Sonny could outmaneuver them. Sidwell, on the other hand, developed an immediate interest in Maxie. Her persistence on revealing the truth about Deception's money made her a threat, and the timing of her breakdown indicated that he may have taken drastic measures to silence her. The jug of cream, given to her moments before the broadcast, was now under inspection. Had Sidwell poisoned it as some believed? Or was this just a fatal coincidence? As night descended on Port Charles, the hospital became a center of activity. Maxie was stabilized, but questions remained. Felicia held on to optimism as Martin fought to clean his and Stella's names. Drew, ignorant to the approaching storm, continued his plans, unknowing that Justine was quietly assembling a case against him. Sonny, too, was calculating, his mind racing with ways to turn the tables on Drew while keeping his pledge to Justine to follow the law. Sidwell and Marco debated their next actions at Windmere, their words full of malice. "Maxie's out of the way for now," Sidwell replied, his tone cold. "But we need to deal with Kane before he becomes a bigger problem." The town was a powder keg with Drew as the spark. His enemies, Sonny, Michael, Curtis, Portia, Alexis, and now Justine, were closing in, each motivated by their own grudge. Maxie's breakdown had added a new level of urgency, reminding everyone in Port Charles that no one was safe when ambition and betrayal collided. Everyone was left wondering what had happened to Maxie and who was to blame. As the night progressed, the answers seemed just out of grasp, trapped in the tangled web of secrets that constituted life in Port Charles. Drew's actions had triggered a chain reaction, and the consequences were only beginning. General Hospital spoilers for Tuesday, August 19, 2025. Fans should expect Britt Westbourne to be questioned. Anna Devane forms a wary alliance. Furthermore, Drew Kane claimed to have been the victim of yet another crime. Continue reading, and let's discuss what's coming up in the next episode of the ABC soap opera. Britt Westbourne explains. Let's start with Britt, who will be cornered in the Five Poppies resort. When they met eyes, Britt told Jason Morgan that he needed to accompany her right away. Then, while in her room, Britt appeared to be quite relaxed. However, Jason was there to tell her that she was in great danger. Jason will also demand answers, one of which is how she survived Heather Weber's poison hook attack. What is Britt doing now? And if her treatment works, may it benefit others with Huntington's? Maxie Jones collapsed after rubbing some kind of makeup product on her neck. Maxie's breakdown must have been caused by something in the face cream. Was it directed at Maxie or at everyone? Could Maxie's conversation with Martin Gray regarding the deception problem be related to the two events? Is someone trying to get rid of Maxie or intimidate her into silence? It is also reported that Lucas Jones attempts to save the life of someone close to him. Is the person Maxie? Diane Miller's warning. General Hospital teasers for Tuesday, August 19th. See Diane Miller sitting down with Michael Corinthos and Sonny Corinthos to discuss the Drew situation. Diane informs him that he knew exactly what he was doing, and there is a cost for it. Could Michael really end up in prison? Perhaps Willow will be used to elicit a confession from Drew? Carly Spencer versus Nina Reeves. Fans will also witness Nina Reeves lose her anger. However, Carly Spencer reminds Nina that she is responsible for everything Willow has lost. In addition, Drew dashes into the police station, claiming to be the victim of a crime. Tuesday, August 19, 2025. Meanwhile, Jocelyn, Jax, and Vaughn plan their next move. In a preview clip, Jocelyn informs her handler that Britt is their best lead. Also, Anna forms a wary partnership. She'll be doubtful of the entire thing, thus it will be interesting to see how she reacts. What narrative are you most looking forward to watching on Tuesday, August 19, 2025? Share your opinions in the comments area below. Remember to keep watching ABC soap operas to see what happens next.